Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to talk about the Last Gameboard. Now that we're fully out of beta, so the last time you guys saw a video from me running through the OS update and what's changed in the games and the library, and me talking about what I overall think about where Gameboard is today, that was a few months ago, and that was when we were in beta, right at the beginning of it, essentially, is when I made that video. So, a few months have passed since then, more games have been released, more OS updates have been released, and a lot has changed since then, and we're going to be talking about some of the things that they've added, some of the things that they improved, where I think Gameboard is going, and things that I like, and maybe some things that need improvement, all that kind of stuff about what the Last Gameboard is today, and, you know, where it was a few months ago. And now we're in full production mode, according to them. So now if you order a game board on their site, you know, you can get one within 4 months. And all the Kickstarter backers that back this, they're now starting to ship these out all the time. So obviously, they're shipping them every week. There's a lot of orders to get through and stuff like that from what they told us. So it's going to take some time to get them all out there. But if you order one today, they estimate that you'll be getting it within about 4 months. So I want to show you guys, again, everything that's been new. So some of the other things that I want to talk about as well, that I know you guys are going to find interesting, and you guys are going to want to subscribe to this channel if you guys haven't already, is obviously you guys know I do a lot of videos on the Infinity Game Table as well, a device that's really similar to this that I have here right next to me while the game board is sitting right there. And I'll be doing a comparison video now that I feel it's kind of in a good place. I didn't do a comparison video before because they were in beta mode, and I didn't want to, like, you know, I'm not going to showcase a beta product versus a product that's actually out in production where people can get. Now that people can actually buy this and get it in a few months, and now that they're claiming to be out of beta, and, you know, we can now analyze it for what it is today compared to what the Infinity Game Table is from Arcade 1UP, and I can't wait to kind of combat that and compare it with the 32-inch model versus their model that they have here. And of course, Arcade 1UP is also going to be releasing a smaller version later this year that I'm excited to compare, because that's going to be even closer of a comparison to the size of both of these. But we'll talk about that when that video comes out here in the next few days when I'll be doing. There's a lot of interesting topics that I want to cover about what these two companies are doing, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that video. But other than that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so here we are with the Last Gameboard here as far as the OS and everything that we're going to be talking about here about what has changed, what we're looking at, and things that they've done. So I'm going to start off by talking about some of the issues that happened during beta that have now been resolved in a good way. So there was two main issues during beta that everyone complained about that they had to get right before this actually went to production, and they did. Even though it took a lot longer than a lot of us expected them to take, but they finally got it right here. So the first main thing, most important thing, was touchscreen noise. So essentially what would happen with those of us who got the beta board is that if you were plugged into power, like you can see we're plugged into power here, there was a lot of noise on the actual touchscreen. So essentially what would happen is if I were to open up a drawer right here, as you can see there, I know I'm opening up a drawer, and we'll talk about drawers here in a minute. What would happen is if I left the game board like it is right now, standing still, you would come back, and because of the touchscreen noise, which is essentially, it's making it seem like someone's touching the screen, even though it's not. That's essentially what touchscreen noise is, and it's coming from electrical interference that they didn't, you know, take into account, I guess, when they first made the beta boards, or they thought they did, and it wasn't good enough. Where I would set this game board back here at the table, and I would come back, and this screen would be open, even though I didn't click on it when I left. Or there'd be like three other drawers open all around the side. It'd be chaos essentially when you came back. You don't know what was going to be on the screen, and there was a lot of that. And what that meant is some of the games still behaved fine, because some of the games, you know, you don't need precision for board games all the time. If you were just moving if you were just moving a pawn from one section to another, some games wouldn't be noticeable. But for example, in games like Pool here, which Pool here, I have open here. Let me open it up for you guys so I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. When you play a game like Pool, that's where the touchscreen noise was really, really noticeable. If I play a practice game here, for example, and I just, you know, it wants me to open up a drawer here, so I got to log into a drawer, and we'll talk about these drawers here in a minute, what I'm doing now, because there's some new features in here as well, including the one that I just hit, but we'll go back to that. And I start this match right here. Before, when I held this like this, see how the stick is actually staying there? When I actually did that before, and I moved the stick around like this, it actually wouldn't let me play the game, because the stick would be disappearing over and over and over again. It would almost be like I took my finger off and it was doing this over and over again. Like, but I actually had my finger on there. So now, as you can see, I'm plugged in, And now things are actually working, and I actually have this on hard mode, so you actually have to hit forward. Because on easy mode, it just kind of throws it forward for you. But that's what kind of makes that was the big issue that they have, and they just resolved it a few weeks ago by sending everyone basically new parts. Everyone who was in beta had to get, they tried OS updates for a while, and it didn't fix everything. It did get better over time. It wasn't as bad, but games like Pool were still unplayable until literally a few days ago when I got my production hardware. Essentially what they did is they gave everyone the option who was in beta, which is fantastic. Those guys have been really great as far as how they do things. They gave everyone the option in beta. It was like, hey, we can send you the part that you need to replace. It's like a little board, and you can open up the back and put it in there yourself if you're familiar with how to unplug things and plugging back in. There was no soldering or anything like that involved. You could either do that yourself or you could send the game board to us. I did it myself. I build computers all the time. It was really simple. I swapped that in, and then combined with the OS update that came out, it's obviously working perfect now. The touchscreen is exactly what you would expect a touchscreen to be. The OS is now really, really smooth, as we always wanted it to be. When you touch something, it actually clicks on what you want. No more touchscreen noise. When you actually want to do something, it actually opens it up. And it's just been a fantastic experience now, kind of the way we always wanted it to be from day one. But we're here now, and obviously, if you get boards now, if you're part of the Kickstarter wave that's getting their boards now that they're sending out, or if you order one today, of course, you'll have the new hardware already in there because obviously they have obviously fixed that out of beta. So that was the first major issue, and they got that resolved, which is fantastic, and I'm super happy with how this performs now. It's the best the OS has ever performed as far as touchscreen, and it works like I would expect that touchscreen to actually work. The next thing that they had an issue with, which was insane, is the battery icon. Yeah, believe it or not, this battery icon up here was never working. It always had an exclamation point, and it didn't actually detect anything. And that was also part of the hardware swap. They tried to fix it via firmware. The firmware fixed it a little bit a few weeks ago, where we actually at least got an indicator, as you can see there, which is red. But it still wouldn't work very well. You had to unplug this and plug it back in to actually get it to show up. All that kind of stuff, and it just didn't work well. That same hardware piece that I talked about before was needed so they can update the firmware on it, and now we got, with the new OS, the battery actually working. I've been using this for the past few days, and it's actually worked the way it's supposed to. As you can see, my board is fully charged because I had it plugged in. If I unplug this thing, you can see there's a little lightning, if you could see that up there, that it's plugged in, and now it's not plugged in. And it's still fully charged. It was crazy before because it either had an exclamation port or it wouldn't be detecting the battery level correctly. Like if I was just fully charged and I unplugged this, it might have went down to 1/4 instead of like it being fully charged because it's been plugged in the whole time. So it's been much, much better in that case. So let's go ahead and just plug this back in. And you can see now that I plugged it back in, of course, it's now charging all over again or staying fully charged. So yeah, those are the two main issues. And that was a lot of work, believe it or not, that they got into there. And they got all of that resolved as of today. And everyone who gets boards now will not have these issues that we all experienced during beta. But that's what a beta is. We have to help them get through it. Have to show them, what this works like in the real world. Maybe in their offices, they didn't experience that touchscreen noise as bad as we did. But then when it gets in people's homes and there's a lot more interference in people's homes with the electric outlets and stuff, it became a way bigger deal. But the good thing is all that stuff is behind us and all now fixed, which is fantastic news. Now, moving on to some of the OS updates that they did. So one of the main things that the game board is known for and how the game board works is these player drawers. That's essentially how all of these games work. And a player drawer is essentially, there's a couple of things. One is the host drawer. So this is the drawer that you need, as the host. You're the main person, and this is how you operate things. So you can go into here, for example, right now in the settings, and you can adjust the volume anytime you want. And this is obviously in-game as well if you need to. This is how you exit an actual profile. You would click that. If you were in a game and you wanted to completely close it out, even though most games have an exit button, but if you just wanted to open up the drawer and close out where you were, boom, you just hit the X button and it will take you back to the main dashboard. So here in this, one of the biggest improvements that they made is actually giving you an option for a guest profile. So a lot of the things revolved before about using a companion app. As it says here, scan through your companion app. Before, that was the only option, unless if you double tap the QR code, but nobody knew. Now with the companion app, which is fantastic, you have the option. You can use either a guest profile, where you would just click on this, and you can pick a color, and boom, you're in there, and that's it. and you have your name. Now the only thing they still need to update is you can't change your player name of that drawer. So right now I'm just called neutral good host. That's something that they said that they're going to be adding here soon. But right now, if you use a guest profile, it's just randomly picking like D&D type of names for you. But that's something that they're going to change here shortly, they said. But right now that's what you're working with. Now if you don't use a guest profile and you use the companion app, then you obviously would have your own name and your own profile, and your name would actually show up on here with your avatar and stuff. But guest profile, you're just stuck with whatever it gives for right now. But it's fantastic because a guest profile means you don't need to have a phone. So if you're using a game on here that doesn't require a phone, for example, because none of their games now require a companion app, which we'll talk about in a few, now you can obviously just use a guest profile. Or if you have kids at home who don't have cell phones or don't have an iPad or something, now you can just use a guest profile and you still get to play the game. But I will say I love the companion app feature. I love companion app because it lets me hide cards and it lets me play games the way I want. So I'm glad that all the games have options for people. So now all the games give you an option of, hey, do you want to play with a companion app, or do you want to do this when you hide cards? And I'll show you guys that when we show a game. It's up to you now. So I like both options, but for me, I'll use a companion app every single time that it works. And is featured in a game, in my opinion. But that's really cool. The improvements on the host drawer and stuff have been good with those two options. Like I said, they added the volume button on here. There's obviously going to be probably more settings coming down the line that you'll need in game. So that's been really good. And then you can just sign out if you want to from there. I've already been signed out, haven't I? Yeah, I never clicked one. And you have the exit, the all master exit sitting over here as well, which is great. So and obviously this is just a host drawer. You can create up to 8 drawers, and you should always create drawers on the home screen before you actually launch a game. It just avoids issues and stuff. Obviously they've been counterbalancing that with updates, but that's the way I do it. I create all the drawers. If you know you're going to be playing with 4 people, then obviously double click on the sides. You would do and create like these guest profiles for people. So you create one over here, and now I have one profile here, one profile here. Let's say I create another one over here. Boom, create another one. Let's say that they're using another guest account. And we'll create that one, and there you go. And then you just swipe it down to go away. Or you can now double tap. So it used to just be a swipe. Now you can just double tap away from the actual drawers. And you can see how smooth everything is. Things were not as smooth during the beta. I'll tell you the guys that right now. But the OS updates have really improved things on the Last Gameboard for sure compared to how it used to be. Like I said, the drawers are a really big improvement, and we have those 3 created. These are the drawers that would be for the player drawers, so they obviously don't have as many options as the host drawer. This would just be for them to sign out of their guest account if they didn't want to play anymore, choosing their color and stuff like that, or scanning through the companion if they want. Obviously, the host drawer would always be the one that has the most. You could move players around too if you want to move to a different area of the table. So I can just hold this down. You can see it picks up. And I can move it now over here, and boom, just drop it, and now it's over here on this side of the board. Whichever way you actually want to do it is perfectly fine on how you want to organize it. Now, the other big features that they added, one of the big things that was crazy during the beta as well, that has now been improved, it has been improved for a few weeks now, is the settings tab. Before, it used to be like an Android settings when you clicked on it, so it didn't look really good, and it was annoying to use, and it wasn't designed. It was great for an Android tablet, but it wasn't designed for this. It was too small, it didn't work well, gave you too many options, people would have been confused. Now they have their own settings area as you would expect, and here you can come in here and see all the games that you have installed, and you can uninstall them right there. You can see how much space you're using. You can obviously go to your network and kind of connect to your network. You have the date and time if you want to change the date and time. You can change the language. You can look at your account, or you can go to update your game board right here if you want to update, and it will open up the update application and take care of that. So that's really good that we got that. They also have a tutorial here now, so you can always access the tutorial. So if you want to learn how to use the game board, and it talks about the player drawers I just talked about, how important they are, and it tells you how to open one and how to move them around. As you guys can see there, you can kind of scroll through here and look at all the different things that it talks about, so you can always access it and kind of see exactly what you need to do with these drawers, because like I said, they're a really core component of the game board of these drawers, because that's how all the games rely on where players are sitting and how many players are playing and stuff like that. I'll skip the rest of the tutorial, but just know the tutorial is always accessible there. They do have the area that you can name your actual game board, and these are achievements here. I believe these are not active yet, but being active soon, but they do have them all set up, so you can unlock achievements by, playing a game 100 times, or, playing a game for 10 hours, whatever the case may be, achievements for board games. That's going to be cool to kind of gravitate towards and get that. Those achievements. So that was a really good update. They finally gave us tabs for the games that we downloaded versus the games that are in their store, which is fantastic. So you can see the installed section here is games that I've actually installed, which is fantastic. And then if you click right there, Libarary is obviously their catalog of games. So these are all the catalog of games that they have currently on the store. So if you have stuff installed, it will go in the installed section. And then the library is all of their stuff here as well. So great that they have improved that and kind of given us those options. And if you go in different areas, you can sort things by example, alphabetical order. So you can do that, or you can sort them the other way for alphabetical order. You can also sort it by playtime if you want to do that, depending on how long games take. If you want to play a fast game, or you can also do it by player count if you want to do it by player count if you want. One of the things that I told them that they need to add that I would really like to see is, I love the player count thing, but I want to be able to select games that are like, not just that it's organizing the list in player count fashion, but I want to be able to select that and say, hey, I want 2 players. Show me all the games for 2 players. Hey, I want 4-player games. Show me all the games for 4 players. Hey, I want online games. Only show me the games that I can play online with other people. Stuff like that. But the sorting is good, but they obviously could add a few more options to give us, even better sorting options than that. But obviously, that will come out. They're obviously going to be updating this thing all the time. This is just their starting base for them. So that stuff is really good. And then, of course, they also added these update icons. As you can see, these little icons that are on the actual tiles of the games. Fantastic, because now when I look at the library, I know, hey, this one has the option to use a companion app. That's what the purple icon is with the little thing. It means that you can use a companion app. Like I said, none of their games require it anymore. They're making it so it kind of handles it both ways. But that's what that icon means, and it's great to see which games use a companion app right off the bat. The little yellow icon will show you if it uses game pieces, which we're going to talk about here. So that means it supports game pieces. These are the game pieces right here. So these are the new ones that they just sent to everyone. These are fantastic. So these are like little pawns that you can use, and we'll show these off in a little bit. And these are the regular ones that you could put your own pieces in here. So think about putting your own chess pieces in here, or your own, D&D pieces in here, and being able to use them on the game board. The whole point of the game board that they always advertise is the fact that you can use physical pieces with the board games. And that's something that there's now, starting to do with these pieces now being sent out to everyone, which wasn't in the beta that just came out here in the production time. They also update a lot of, how the interface looks. Now you can kind of see the rating of the games that people are rating around here. This would be what people in the game board community are rating it, some of the games. And then it tells you right there, the companion app can be used and is optional. So they have these little things here. And then those are the physical pieces can be used. It tells you the player count, how long the game takes and stuff like that. Which is really good. There's also a couple of more. If you go into the library, there's a couple of more icons that you'll see. That cloud icon means that you haven't downloaded it yet, and you can download it. That's why that's a little download icon that you see there. So that would be the other one that you may see, in the tiles and stuff like that. One of the other things that they added as well is that if you launch a game, like if I were to launch Cat Lady right here, one of my favorite games on here, Cat Lady is a fantastic card game and also a fantastic game on here, is that obviously, let's say you were playing Unplugged, and you want to know what the battery life is in case you have to re-plug in. Obviously, you have no way of knowing because there's no battery icon anywhere on the screen because, of course, the game's taking up the full screen. So they finally added a way for you to do that on the games where you could just take your finger at the top and scroll down, just like that. And then you can see that it's actually showcasing the battery icon there. So you can see how much battery life is left and what time it is and stuff like that. Small feature, but a really nice improvement to be able to see, what the battery life is. And this is what I talked about here. So if you're in a game like this, you can obviously click on here and you can quit from there. If you want to, or if you have the drawers open at the beginning there, you would just quit right from there. That's the master quit button to go back to the main dashboard like we talked about before. So really good improvements. Now let's talk about the library of games here and what they've done. So they've obviously released some games. They should be releasing, according to them, they're going to have over 100 games by the end of the year is what their goal is. So they're going to be ramping up, apparently, how many games are coming out because they're definitely nowhere close to that right now. But they have released games throughout the beta period, and most of them, actually all of them, I would say, are fantastic. One of the things that really stands out about the game board to me is the quality of what these games look like and just like their appearance and just the graphics quality, how good they look, how great the animations look and stuff like that. And I talked about that a little bit in the other video that I made, but games continue to be that way, and that's what really separates Game Board from me, especially games that don't have a digital form. Games that you never see in digital form that have never been digitalized before now sitting on the game board are done super well. So let's look at the library first. So this is just what I have installed, but let's look at the full library just so you guys get an idea of what's currently on the game board. Let's go ahead and sort these in alphabetical order just because it's easier for me to look at that way. So we have Anagramma. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Think of this like a word game and stuff like that, like Scrabble and stuff. It's their version of that. Then you have Cat Lady, fantastic board game, really highly acclaimed. Of course, you have chess, Code Break, which is their variation and their own unique code names type of game, which is really, really fun. They have Creature Feature, really good game from Richard Garfield. Really fun time playing that. This one came out recently, literally in the last couple weeks. Depict It, which is a drawing game. Downforce, fantastic game from Restoration Games. We have the Foundry client. And unfortunately, if you guys are going to ask me how well D&D apps work on here, since there's been mixed signals on the Discord, I don't know enough about D&D. I don't play Foundry and I don't play, Planner Ally and stuff like that. I haven't gotten into it because no one that I know plays D&D, so I haven't really gotten into that. So unfortunately, I can't tell you how well it's working or how well these clients actually work on Gameboard. All I know is that people say that they have some issues with Foundry, but they're working on it all the time. And then Planner Ally seems to work well, but it's a little bit more limited. That's all I really know. Obviously, you can join the Discord to get more information. I don't know exactly. I can't test it myself because I don't really know how to use these applications, I'm not into that D&D world. But if you just want this for D&D, I would definitely log into the Discord and ask people, what's going on with these different applications and what you can actually use them for and what their sources are on how this stuff is working. But going back to the games that I do like, besides those, Koi, fantastic game. Mystic Vale, really, really good game that we all know. Night of the Ninja, really, really fun. Ogre, One Card Wonder, this is the one that literally just came out a few days ago. Planner Ally that we just talked about, we showcased Pool before. We have Railroad Ink Challenge. We have Shooty Tanks, which is an original game by them. Showcase the touchscreen and stuff. We have Stop Thief, Transforming Mars, Texas Hold'em, The Color Scheme, Viniculture, Wings of Glory, and Zombie Dice. So they do have a good variety of games. I would say that they're going with a good variety. Like, I'd like to see, hey, sometimes give me this type of game in this kind of category. Card games, word games. So I think they're going in a pretty good area. I can't wait to see. They haven't announced what their next game is because they've released everything that they've said. So I can't wait to see what the next game is that they're working on. And hopefully we get an announcement and guesses on that soon. But what is here is really good. Like I said, what's really impressive, and I'll showcase a couple of these games to you right now. Most of these games seem to be having AI, and if they don't have AI, they're going to be adding AI, which is great for someone who's not always with other people. The way I use the game board the most is I usually I didn't get the game board for online play or anything, even though they are telling that they're going to be adding online play to more and more games as time moves on. But right now, most of the games are local play only. With a couple of them having online play, but like I said, most of them are not. But what I really like about this, and I'll raise the volume so you guys can hear it a little bit since I think I put it really low. You can hear it there a little bit. So I can hit play here. I'm obviously not going to do learn. And then you can come on here and you can actually add a player drawer and ready up. So and go ahead and log into my guest account there. As you can see, I forgot to log into these player drawers here because I had them still under the guest account. I didn't actually log into a guest account, but now I did. You can see a lot of the games now are kind of, in the same exact vein where you ready up by kind of sliding something. They're doing that with all the games, so everything is, similar, so everyone knows what they're doing. So if I was going to play with this player, I would just slide and be ready. And everyone else I'm going to add as an AI because I'm not going to, these two players are obviously, I don't have a way to play with them because there's no one else here. So I can play this game with the AI, and I just think the animations and stuff look fantastic. Of course, I'm not going to show you a full game of these. I just want to give you guys a snippet of them. But I think they look fantastic. I love the way this game looks. It's really colorful. They did a fantastic job of playing this game. It's really smooth, fantastic animations. Opening this up and being able to see your cats and feeding them and stuff like that like this. All works really well. I think it looks fantastic, and it just has a really colorful and great looking style. And then you can click on the settings here, and you can obviously, when you click on the settings here, your drawers usually pop back up again. And then you can obviously, like I said, if you want to quit, you could just quit just like that if you want to. So Cat Lady's fantastic on here. Like I said, I think it looks really, really cool. Obviously, I'm not going to showcase and open up all these different games for you guys because I've done videos on most of these games, and I'll be continuing to do videos on most of these games as they come out. And you guys can watch those videos, subscribe to the channel so you can see exactly how these games play. But the quality of these games is really top-notch, and I'm really, really impressed with it. One of the things I did want to show off here is these pieces that just came out. So they came out with these 4 little pawn pieces, as you guys are looking at here. There it is. 4 different ones with 4 different colors. And some of the games let you use it. So one of the games that lets you use it is Stop Thief, for example. and they work with these pawn pieces. These other pieces here are great for like the D&D type of apps that I showed you guys before. You can put your own minis in here if you have them. It also works with chess as well. If you want to use your own chess pieces and put them in here, these are like the standard bases, and you just put your pieces in there. They give you like 12 of these, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excuse me, 10 pieces. So I'm gonna just hit solo and cooperative here, and I'm gonna just ready up one of these players here. I'm gonna go ahead and drag this over here, and then I'm just gonna play with one player and start game. We're just gonna go ahead. Yeah, we'll leave it on standard. That's fine, and we'll hit play. And I'm gonna show you how easy it is for these pieces to actually sync. Again, another game. Even though it's been out for a while, fantastic animations, guys. Just look at this. When you get a clue, the crime has been committed. You got these fantastic animations. The lights and everything on the board is lighting up. I just think they did this game super well in digital form. A game that was never done digitally. And I think it looks fantastic on here. And they did a really good job of creating this game. But you could see my player pawn pieces right there. It's that blue one. Now, naturally, I would pick a card to actually play. Let's say I put this 10. Obviously, you can see the areas lighting up of where I can move, right? So I can go ahead and grab this and kind of move wherever I would want. But what I can do instead is take this pawn piece and just place it over the blue. Boom. You saw that it synced? That's how quick it was. I couldn't even get my hand out of the way fast enough to show you guys that a little thing popped up saying your piece has been synced. And now I can just move it and go just like this. And just move it around the board as if I'm playing with a real piece. See that? It's fantastic. And that's how you play with these pieces in a game like Stop Thief. You can use them as little pawns. And then, again, you would get a clue, for those of you guys who played the game. And then if I want to go ahead and do that, I could. Now, one of the things that they did with all the games that I told you didn't need a companion app for is also in this game as well. One of the things that you can do on here is getting a private tip. So see how that works there, how you're getting a private tip. A lot of the games that used to use a companion app, this game never did, but as an example, a lot of the games that had hidden information on players, you needed a companion app to actually use and see the cards. Still an option, which I think is a great option because that's how I want to play it. But now you can use these gestures that you can just see your cards or do one of these things to kind of see. See how I can see the number now? 1, 2, 4. So that's fantastic. And now I can see he's at 1, 2, 4. And then again, I can just take my piece and move him around. Now, some of the times this becomes a little bit of... a problem in the sense that, like, if you're playing with two players and you have pieces moving around, obviously if I was green player and I wanted to move my green piece, I'm going to have to move this player out of the way because this needs to be dragged along the board to work. So if I was the green player, you just move the blue player out of the way, let him continue moving, and it will work just fine. When he gets to his destination, considering how fast this thing sinks, you just put him back on there, and then you'll be able to move them. So it's not really a big deal, but it is something you need to be aware of. Of course, if you're playing a game that has pawns that need to move around someone, since this needs to be dragged so it knows where you're moving, then obviously you're going to have to move that other player out of the way while you move across so you can move it away. So obviously that's the nature of how this game works. Other games that have pawns that may use these pieces may not work where you're going around each other, but just know that that's kind of how this game works, and that's something that, is by nature. Again, you can exit the game right there, or obviously use the player drawer like I talked about before and go right back over here. Now, one of the last things I wanted to talk about here is just to show you guys a little bit of what I was talking about with those games that don't require a companion app anymore. Texas Hold'em is a perfect example of that because obviously it's a game that requires hiding your cards. And the way that it works on here is instead of using a companion app, like other games that used to force you to use a companion app, is now you can just use your hands to see your cards. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how that works. And this is another thing that during beta didn't work very well because of the touchscreen noise. Every time you would do this, the card would be flicking back and forth. And I'm obviously happy to say that all these issues have now been resolved, ready for production, like I talked about before. But, let's say all these three players were playing and then you hit deal. This is obviously a very simple game in Texas Hold'em. But let's say I can't see over there. So let's just say he decides to bet 20. I love the way that this game works too. They did a lot of cool things. But let's say it's my turn here. See how it's telling you what to do with your hand? So if I want to see my card, and boom, I can see my card, and I'm looking at it, 4, blah, 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 looking at it, boom, let go. Same thing with the other players. Obviously, if I do this, if I do that, then obviously those players can see their cards as well. Of course, you can't see it because I'm doing it. But it would be the exact same philosophy right here. If I was looking at those cards, you can kind of see, if I move my heart away, that they're looking at those cards. So it works really well. And Texas Hold'em does some cool stuff too, that you can kind of just tap on the table. You can move your chips. You can just double tap and you hear like the noise if you were knocking on the table, which is really cool. And you can just fold if you want to. You can just take the cards and throw them forward, and now you folded. So just really intuitive stuff that kind of by nature works with how you would expect to play a game like this. So that's essentially how most of those other games work too. You're looking at your cards, hiding the information. That's what they've done with a lot of their other games that have hidden information. You can either use a companion app, so you can kind of hide the phone in front of you, or you can use that gesture and just look at your cards. It's whatever how you want to play the game. I prefer the companion app in my personal preference because the companion app is cool and it's kind of what sets this game board apart. But I'm glad that both options exist, so if you have a kid around who doesn't have a phone, you can still play these games. And that is an overview of what we have going on with the game board right now. In the last few months, like I said, a lot of big improvements on the actual OS. Things are running super smooth now. There's only a few things that I want them to do that come off the top of my head. I talked about adding those things here as far as sorting. Those are the things that I want to see. There's obviously other things that I want to see. But overall, I think we're in a really, really good place with the Last Game Board as a good starting base. I can't wait to see more features come through. Of course, one of the big things that they touted with the game board back in the day is online playing community. That's something that they're working on, that they've touted, that they've showed a couple of years ago. And that's something that I can't wait to see, where you're going to be able to see what games people are playing or play some of these games online with folks. I can't wait for that. But for right now, the game board for me is something I bring to my family's house, could whip out and have a bunch of board games with me and play a bunch of these games around the table. And it works great for that. And I'm having a really fun time, and I can't wait to see what games they come out with next and what new features are coming out with next. But really impressed with where we started at beta to where we ended. This is a gigantic improvement to where we were. And, I'm really impressed with where we are. So let's go ahead and go into my final thoughts. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that video on the Last Game Board on where we stand today. And I'm really, really excited for the future of this thing. Obviously, that's why I cover it on this channel. No one's paying me to make these videos or anything like that, or making the gameplay videos that I showcase to you guys. I do that because I love the product and I love, what it could be in the future. And I love what we're using today. And I hope that they succeed and they sell a lot of these things so we can keep getting more games. But what is here, like I showed you guys in the library, in my opinion, is really, really good. Yes, sometimes, of course, they release new games and there's a few bugs that maybe they should have caught. But the important thing in my eyes is how fast they fix them. And so far, for the most part, they've been fixing them really quickly when they get brought to their attention on their Discord or through email or when we report these bugs. And most of the games, are bug-free when it comes to ones that they've released a long time ago. They've done a lot of patches to it. And what's even better is that they're releasing updates to these games that, even though they released them, they're not like, hey, I'm going to make it, set it, and forget it. They've gone back to games and added updates and entire new modes, which is fantastic to see. Adding more options, adding AI, adding online play. This is stuff that they're going back to games and adding the whole not needing a companion app if you don't want to, which is great for people who don't want to use it or don't have phones and little ones in the house and family members and stuff. So they keep improving the games even more so. And some of these games, like I said, are done really, really well, in my opinion, with what they've done with the graphics and the quality. And you can tell that there's a lot of love being put into these games, which is what makes me excited. If these games were being hashed out, and they were putting out games every week, but they were terrible, no one's going to want them. So it's really exciting to see how much quality is being put into here and how much, improvement and is being done into these games, especially games that I've never seen digitally before. Those are the ones that impress me the most because they're essentially making these games from scratch out of their own minds, and there's no digital formation of what they're carrying and porting it from, and they're doing an outstanding job so far, and I can't wait to see what those devs do from the Last Game Board as more and more games come out. We'll see when we had their weekly, their bi-weekly meetings that we have with them on Discord, where they tell us what's coming up on the future roadmap and stuff. They did say that they hope to have over 100 games by the end of the year. So we'll see how that pans out, but that's a lot of games to get done between now and the end of the year, but that's what they're saying, and I look forward to seeing how many games come out. Obviously, they're not making all of those other games themselves. They have third-party developers that are working on games themselves, and they're going to be releasing the games on Game Board, so it's not like they're making 70 more games out of their own back pocket from scratch. It's coming from the third-party developers that are making games themselves, people that they've partnered with, and they have a lot of great partners as well. Asmodee is on board, and all the other great partners that are on their website. So there's a lot of good games that can come from them because they have a lot of games from their repertoire kind of coming. So I'm excited to see where that comes from and where that goes. And what kind of games we get in the future, and especially if we get that many. Obviously, right now, everyone is getting access to the game board without actually paying for the games, because they're doing like a whole year where you actually have access to this stuff and all the games and stuff, because they want to make the quality of the games and get everything down packed, and they want to release more games. Be a hard sell, because they've always said that they're going to have two options. They're going to have, where you can pay for all the games a la carte, and you just buy, hey, I want this game for $5, I want this game for 10, or you can do a subscription base where you just get everything for a certain amount of money per month. Obviously, if they only have, the 25 games that they have there right now, they're not going to get a lot of people to subscribe per month, especially if they're not releasing new games on a, bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis at least. So they probably want to get to a certain number and be like, hey, we have over 75 games, we have over 100 games, and now you can be like, hey, you can pay these a la carte, or you can buy a subscription. And if they had over 100 games to start with, they would get a lot of people to subscribe per month if the games were doing really well with online play and local play and all that kind of stuff. Especially me, I would. Especially if not only did they have 100 games, but then they also, had a cadence to release, a new one every 2 to 4 weeks, for example, that you can look forward to that would be dropping in the store. So that's probably what they're going with, and that's probably why a lot of these are, why this is a free, period right now, while people get their game boards as they ramp up their stuff now that a lot of the big headaches that they had in the OS are now resolved, as I showed you guys. Now they can kind of concentrate on other things. So really, really excited again for the future of this thing, guys. And stay tuned and subscribe to the channel, because I'll be doing a lot of videos on this. The next one will be Arcade 1-Up Infinity Game Table versus the Last Gameboard, and you guys will definitely want to stay tuned for that. It's not all roses on both sides. There's definitely going to be things I like, on one side over the other, and what someone else is doing versus another. So that'll be a fun video to get into. Other than that, guys, if you guys have any questions about anything you guys have seen, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.